Hello, Craig.
It's all on you, it's all on me. Can't you see? It's all on you, it's all on me. You and me, can't you? It's all on you, it's all on me.
Hey, Craig. Right or wrong, we don't care. Win or lose, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care.
Hey, Jeff. It's basketball season. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Nothing else of importance in Washington State athletics. It's basketball season.
Hey, man, those games happen on Monday. Nothing else bad has happened since then. So that's good enough for me.
And we love
I've had
recency bias.
I've had like two full days of only wins. I haven't had anything bad happen since Monday.
Yep.
So
you're getting a happier version of us. This is Podcast versus Everyone, episode 201. It's kind of crazy saying that, but I am Craig Powers. With me, as usual, is Jeff Nusser. And Jeff, basketball started. Really fun to have both the men's and women's team play on the same day. So you got it had a cool feel of like a kickoff of a season, and honestly, like I felt like because of that there was more people paying attention because there was like Cougar sports on for 4 out of 6 hours. And I felt like I've never seen this many people pay this much attention to the first women's basketball game of the year, and which was very cool to see. They definitely have picked up their following, and then of course the nightcap we had the men's game, and they resurrected the now that John's gone, they could resurrect the rivalry with Idaho. I'm just kidding, John. Not that you listen anymore. But they resurrect the rivalry with Idaho. That was the men's game. Obviously, was super interesting. If nothing for there being again so many new faces. It's just so many new players. We've talked about it many times. They lost their top 4 best players from last year. And now they
not according to Dan Dickow. According to Dan Dickow, we only lost two good players.
Two good players. Which to Heister's credit.
To Greg Heister's credit, he was like, actually, they lost their top 4 scorers. And Dickow's like, that's what I said. They lost their top 4 scorers. And I'm like,
that's like, no, you didn't.
That's not what you
thought
said.
Mo Gay and TJ Bama were the only 2 players, but we could
not to mention
talk about
Justin Powell, who's on a 2-way NBA contract or whatever, and anyway,
yep, So, and then maybe the one that hurt most of all was DJ going to USC.
Yes.
But, not necessarily from a basketball standpoint, but from just a heart standpoint.
From an everything standpoint.
From everything standpoint. The starting lineup was interesting. It was, so great to see Miles Rice in the starting lineup and play a significant amount. It wasn't just a token start or anything, just, hey, you're back. He obviously is a guy they want to go with. And it was good to see, we had heard differing things on Yaki, but it was good to see that he was out there. He's asserting himself as a leader. And then, of course, you had Chinyelu. He was an interesting watch. It's just, there's so many new guys. Yusufu, it's just like with all the new guys, it's just like you're constantly evaluating everything you see, and it's so weird. You think at it just sucks that we have to do this every year. Really, like there hasn't been a year where we hadn't lost at least a couple of our best players, and so and then had some big transfers in or big freshmen coming in. So we're just kind of getting used to it at this point. But Jeff, let's just jump out. What were what was your first impressions of the team? What was your biggest takeaway from the men's game?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was that it was, as we kind of alluded to earlier, it was a moment of joy. It's like, yeah, I don't know, man. At this rate, we're gonna lose to Idaho. I was like, I was kind of bracing myself for the worst, but we definitely did not. Definitely did not have, anything close to the worst. I was looking at, Ken Palm's win probability chart, and the game started out at 98% win probability for the Cougs, and that was in fact their lowest win probability of the game. Yeah. So yeah, really no issues there.
Despite how excited Greg Heister gets when Idaho poses in 12. It was never really in doubt.
Yeah, he, I don't know, man. For whatever reason, he thinks it's like his job. And it's not just him, too. It's like a lot of broadcasters trying to convince you that you should continue to watch. And I'm like, bro, like the only people watching this are WSU fans, and they're going to keep watching or
Idaho fans, and they're probably
Idaho fans. Either way, like both those fan bases are going to keep watching. You're not getting casuals turning on Pac-12 Washington on Monday night at 8:00. Just like, let me casually
just flip it through the channels.
And if they did, and by the way, even if they did, they're not going to be turned off by WSU destroying Idaho. Like they're going to be like, well, this is what I expected. Like I don't know. Well, anyway, I digress. So obviously they handled it from the tip. I think that the starting unit looked really good. It's sometimes you kind of go, well, why
with
is he
Jones? I should add that who I did not mention.
Yeah, Isaac Jones, and I felt like that starting unit had a really nice cohesiveness to it. They played well together. Again, it's only one game, but there were bright spots. I mean, Miles Rice, clearly it wasn't just a token start. Like he showed some things that were really fun. Like he's very fast. Like holy crap, he's fast.
Yeah.
There was one, where he was leading the break up the floor. Let me take that back. He was not leading the break at the start of the break, but he was leading the break by the end of the break. He just sort of like turned on these jets as he went over half court and started weaving through the defense. And Yesufu, same thing. Like he, real fast and, maybe a little out of control at times, but still like there's an element of speed, with the guards that's not a thing that we've seen, recently.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, and I on the point of Miles especially, like we've heard the last 2 years, even when he was redshirting, even this team is so lacking downhill guards, and we've heard that he actually has this, and we kind of wondered his redshirt freshman year, why isn't he, maybe he should be on the floor, and some people I think thought that he should have had a chance. And then obviously, he couldn't be on the floor, but like it's fun to see that, obviously this team doesn't have the shooters that it normally has, but they do have some downhill guys in Yesufu and Rice, some real legit speed and strength and athleticism to get to the rim. We'll see, how Miles can get to the rim against bigger, stronger teams, but he has a lot of it is just a willingness to do it. We saw like with Paolo last year, he just didn't want to do it. Like he just was very, very turnover, afraid to get to turn the ball over. Same with Flowers. Same. So you get guys like that, and then you just don't have any downhill players. But now they do, which is good because they actually have some guys at the rim that could finish with some dump offs, like with Jones. Jones has a lot of bounce. He is in terms of athleticism, and offensive skill set. He is every bit a Pac-12 player, like every bit a big time player. And then Chinyelu is, he's athletic as hell. Like if you lob one up to him, he's going to dunk it. So that I think that's something that could work. That's something, especially with Chinyelu, could be a huge source of offense for him if Yusufu and Rice can get downhill.
Well, and how many times over the last, however many years have we just sort of longed for an easy basket? With, for whatever reason, Smith's offenses tend to be more grinded out than anything else, and easy buckets sometimes are tough to come by. And so, maybe having that threat of guys, speeding down the floor. Obviously other teams will now have that on their scouting report, so they'll, figure out how they want to deal with that. But the threat of that is, a thing that the defense has to always have in their mind. And if they're not set, then you go and you take advantage of it. And, and you just, like you mentioned, you've got the bigs who can finish. And, but you also have Andre, who we haven't really talked about much yet, but yeah. Andre, I don't know this for sure, but I would assume this is the first time he's led the team in shots in his career. He led the team in points. I'm pretty sure that's not the first time. I think he has had a game where he led the team in points, but it was always like sort of he hit like, I don't know, 6 threes, so he went 6 of 8 from 3 and had, 9 shots or something, that kind of thing. In this game, he had 16 attempts, right? 21 points. He was 8 of 16, had, 4 or 5 layups.
5, I think.
Again, not the toughest interior defense for Idaho, but at the same time, we've seen Andre not finish against teams that aren't real intimidating around the basket. So, lot to be encouraged by there with his offense for sure.
Yeah, just his willingness to go to the rack, you just haven't seen it, and we honestly need that from him this year. And it's what we saw. It's an element of his game that we were excited about when we looked at his tape from when he played in Europe as a teenager. So so we were hoping he'd be this like ball handler, downhill guy from the moment he came, and he's just always just been a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. That's all he's been on offense, really. And so it was crazy to see him put the ball on the deck a lot. We've seen him bring the ball up before, but never really dribble inside of the arc much. So it was cool to see him actually do it. And yeah, like you said, he's played some bad teams before, and he's never really had that willingness to do it. Smith commented on it too. And so, yeah, it was really nice to see. And then also see him finish layups. Yep. Remember when he was a freshman, like his 2-point percentage was something like 20%. To see him finish layups, I don't care who it's against. He was missing everything at the rim when he was younger. To see him finish at the rim is great. And only 1 turnover. He played good defense. He was
a couple of blocks.
He looked like a very good player, and hopefully he does take that step forward. We've seen guys in their 4th year finally come together, especially guys with his profile. Like a shooter mostly, a shooter kind of stretch forward type guy. We've seen guys like that, Koprivica, Lodwick, kind of take that step forward. So I'm hopefully he does that, because he actually has way more talent than either of those guys I mentioned.
Yeah.
And has shown more ability to do more things. So very exciting if he can keep this up again. We're talking about one game. We're talking about a game against one of the worst teams in the country, but like it's good that you could beat the crap out of a bad team. Like that's good.
Exactly. I mean, it's encouraging, and that's exactly what you want to see, right? Like this doesn't prove anything. It doesn't, like you mentioned, you beat Idaho by 25 and your Ken Palm ranking changes 0.
Not at all.
Not at all. Still 84th. So, You did what you were supposed to do, which is great. But again, given where we're kind of at right now mentally, doing what you're supposed to do is actually a bit of a pleasant surprise. So, it was good to come away with that. Just kind of other things that I noticed. I was really surprised at how many minutes Kamani Huinsu played. Like pleasantly surprised. I was really glad. Because I know he's super inconsistent. I know that he is sort of frustrating at times. His decision making sometimes can leave you really scratching your head. But the bottom line is he is talented in a way that nobody else on the roster is. And if you can figure out a way to like really get him being productive, he's a difference maker kind of guy. Like he can do so many things so well at times, not always, but at times, right? He can dribble, he can slash, he can post up, he can defend, he can do so many cool things. It's just that it kind of comes and goes. And I love the fact that the coaching staff is, gave him some run. He played 21 minutes. That was a lot of minutes. That was like, I don't know, tied for sixth most on the team or something, like, or fifth most on the team.
Fifth most, yeah. More than Jones.
Yeah, so
more than Jones played, yeah.
Yeah, so he got plenty of run, got plenty of chances to play. Again, like he generally is, he's kind of up and down, but just the fact that the coaching staff is like, I think recognizing, hey, this is a guy that we need, and if we can somehow tap into it, there's a player in there somewhere, right? And maybe they can pull that out. So that was cool. I like that. And then on a little bit more of a negative side, I was really surprised by the play of Jay Mullins. He really struggled. Plus minus is, obviously sort of a notoriously noisy stat, but in a game that you won by 25, Jabe played 17 minutes and the team was only +4. Pretty much everybody else who played meaningful minutes was in double digits. The only guy I think who played double digits who wasn't plus minus double digits was Isaiah Watts. He played 10 minutes, was +8. Jabe just it was a lot of the same stuff we've seen in the past. The ball movement on offense gets real slow. The ball gets stuck in his hands, and then on defense, he seems to sort of get lost. So that was a little surprising, given his level of experience. I don't really know what was going on there, but hopefully they can get something more out of him. He didn't, he took 1-3, and he made it. And I think that was later.
It was a tough one too, but yeah. So like he could shoot, and I think
he can shoot.
The worry is he gets frustrated if he doesn't get shots up. He doesn't, he's not scoring when he gets in, and he just seems like a guy that he kind of gets in his own head a bit. And I hate saying that, but it just we've seen the way Kyle reacts to him when he comes off, and it's just you kind of can tell when coaches know there's guys like that, and they kind of want to try to nip it in the bud. So Jabe, I don't know, like. He's probably going to hit 6 threes in a game at some point this year, and then he's going to have a lot of games when he's just not going to be a factor or be a negative factor. So,
the beard was on point, though.
The beard,
I do want to point that out.
Yeah,
the beard looked very good, Jabe. If you're listening,
and the jumper did look good still too.
Yes.
And then Isaiah Watts, you mentioned him, how he could shoot, and
he looked like he might.
He might find his way into minutes just because of that. Because there's not a lot of shooters to space the floor on this team right now. And so you're looking at Jabe, the real consistent guy is probably Jabe, Yaki, and maybe Watts. Because otherwise, like Rice, it doesn't seem like it's a thing he's really super comfortable with. And then like Yusufu, he made one, but that we know we have years of data to know that is not one of the things he does.
that is not his strength.
And then
probably
we know
won't
Kamani
stop him from shooting them, but
And
Kamani,
then
God bless him, did not even try. So good job.
And Darling, speaking of that, Darling played 6 minutes, didn't take a single shot, had 1 offensive rebound.
Yeah,
like like you just got to do
I was hoping
something.
for a little more there.
Yeah. But yeah, but we haven't talked about the bigs really much. I want to start with Isaac Jones. Obviously, he's playing against his former team. Probably a little jazzed for that, but offensively in particular, he looked very good. You know, his back to the basket, his ability in the post. That looks great. You know, his skill set, back to the basket, like that's so impressive. And we kind of thought like that's going to be something this team's going to rely on more this year is stuff like that. And he looks like a guy that can do that. And very smooth, very athletic. I mean, he averaged 19 points a game last year. So, and he looks like a guy that can definitely be one of our top scorers. That is going to be maybe our top scorer this year.
He definitely looked a little more athletic than I anticipated. And not that I, had really low expectations, but it was just like, I don't know. I mean, you're getting a guy who's been at Idaho. I think you just sort of make some assumptions, or at least I do, in my head. Yeah. Okay, so the guy's able to score in the Big Sky, but he's, I don't know, right? But yeah, he might, we don't want to go, too far down the line. I mean, he might have, a rougher go against, some of the much bigger teams in the conference. I mean, he is listed at 6'9". I'm not sure if he's that tall. Might be more like 6'8", with long arms, but so when he faces real tall guys, the really big front lines, the UCLAs, the Arizonas, those kinds of teams, he may struggle a little bit more to get a shot off. But like I said, athletically, he definitely looked like he could hang. The arms, he's got those long arms. He gets off the floor pretty quick. The rebounding was stronger than I expected. And again, he's, going against a team that doesn't have a big front line, not a lot of athleticism, all the caveats apply. But to play 20 minutes and have a defensive rebounding rate of 26, so that means basically 1 out of every 4 misses by Idaho he was grabbing while he was on the floor. And then offensive rebounding rate being 24, which means, again, 1 out of every 4 misses by the Cougs when he was on the floor, he was grabbing them. Those are really, really good numbers. And so I don't know if obviously the offensive rebounding rate's unsustainable, but, that's, I don't know if that's something that's, sort of going to be a staple of his game going forward this year. But man, if you've got him and, Chinyelu down there just hoovering up boards, that's a pretty good place to be. Even if, the offensive stuff, maybe is a little tougher sledding against the higher quality teams.
Yeah. Chinyelu definitely, especially, he looks the part. He's big and strong, and he's got hops.
We got to get rid of the t-shirt undershirt.
Yeah, because he's got to go. He's got muscles under there. You wear ripped, that when buddy. You wear that when you're like Chet Holmgren skinny, but even Chet Holmgren didn't wear that.
Or when you're fat and you just want to cover up the fact that you've got
you're super
sort of chubby arms.
Maybe super sweaty. Yeah.
Maybe that's possible.
But yeah, like he looked like a guy that's definitely obviously going to rely on offensive rebounds and dump offs to get points. Defensively, he can block shots. But I'm not sure if he's a shot blocker necessarily. I don't mean he might be more of a guy that's good at covering one-on-one, kind of like more like Mo than like more of a Mo defender than a FA defender, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think he might be somewhere kind of in the middle there. Because Mo was like definitely like for whatever reason he just was really reluctant to hunt blocks, and of course FA like he could smell blocks like a hound dog basically. Like it's like ooh here's a block, and like he knew when he was going to be able to erase something. Chinyelu looks like a guy to me who just needs to play more basketball, and just needs more experience. And then he'll start to kind of sniff those out. But I mean, having a block rate of 21.2, that's pretty good, even if maybe you're not the most natural shot blocker.
I say Clough definitely looks like he has more of an offensive game, lot more skilled look, more polished. down there. He made some nice looking moves on offense. Definitely kind of a goofy looking guy. You know, kind of reminds me the way he runs around of Caleb Forrest a little bit.
Yeah. Well, he's got the Australian mullet going on too.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
taking over for Ryan Rapp with the mullet. So
yeah. But I don't know. Like he, especially like it, he may struggle against some of the dudes in the Pac-12, but I don't know. If he's going to be your backup 5, I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's going to be him and Chinyelu play similar minutes, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it'll probably depend a lot on matchups as well.
Yeah.
You know, kind of what they need. And, you know, Jones is going to play a ton. He only played 20 minutes, but he's going to play a ton. And, you know, Clough, what he brings that I sort of liked, he had a couple of really nice little, like little seals on people's drives to sort of clear the lane. I could see him being, you know, almost a little bit of a, okay, this is going to sound super ridiculous. He is not Nikola Jokic, but Nikola Jokic, one of the things he does really well is he will hold the ball and he can do handoffs and he can do kind of these like pick and roll actions with guards just kind of holding the ball. And so I don't know kind of how they will want to utilize him, but it sure seems like they could utilize him in that sort of way. He's a big, wide body. He can, you know, stand at the top of the key or at the elbow and do like little handoff actions with guards where guards can, you know, maybe turn the corner or maybe they don't and they just pop out and then you sort of drop it off and then they, you know, shoot a 3. I mean, I don't think he did an action like that with Yakimovsky. I think that combo where I think that was with Isaac Jones where Andre hit a 3 kind of off a handoff, but similar actions like that, it seems like Clough could do that sort of stuff. He just seems to have a nice feel for the game. So I think there's some options there, you know, for some flexibility. And I think it's kind of cool to have, you know, 3 bigs who are all very capable and can all do, you know, some different kinds of things. I think that's a real asset for Kyle Smith and his staff.
Yeah. So just in watching the game, it just, you know, they're sitting at 84 on KenPom. I could see them being better than that. I think there's, especially given, so a couple guys you're like in your head trying to like what are they going to be? Jones, Rice, Yusufu, Yaki. I think like I would say like Jones, Rice, and Yaki all looked better than I thought they would. Yeah. And if that stays the case, this could potentially be a better team. You know, I'm not saying like I think it would take a lot for this team to be a tournament team. Like they would really have to. I didn't see that, but I, you know, like if Yaki can maintain that, it would have to be like Yaki would have to maintain this. Jones would have to be this good. Rice would have to be that really down here point guard. Chinyelu would have to be super good on defense. You know, Clough would have to be exactly that guy you were talking about. You know, we'd have to get really good contributions from Jabe or Watts off the bench. Winsu would have to be a real nice piece to be like a top 40 type team. But I could definitely see this being like a top 75, top 70 team that causes some pain in the Pac-12 and potentially could get to another NIT type scenario.
Well, and don't forget Jalen Wells either. You know, he didn't play.
That's fair.
He's a difference maker as well. I know that, you know, we're all sort of like naturally skeptical of a guy who comes up from Division II and, you know, you just kind of go, you know, but I know that the coaching staff loves him. Yeah, he's not 5'8". That's the other thing. He's 6'7", and he's a legit wing, and he can shoot and he can score. He's good. The coaching staff, you know, sort of raved about him when he was, you know, there for workouts. So he's hurt right now. I don't know the extent of it. I don't know how long he'll be out, but But I do know that he's a guy who also just adds another dimension to the offense. And I think it would not be, super shocking if, if eventually he's a starter. Just as kind of you look at what,
we did hear
starting players are going to be. So
we did, it did kind of seem that he and Yaki would be battling for minutes, maybe. But
yeah,
if you can get them both,
but I could also, I could see a scenario where Wells is at the 2, and you're going Rice, Wells, Yaki, Chinyelu, Jones. Like that would not. That would not shock me.
We love a big lineup.
We do love length, although that might invite more of the zone. But we'll see. That would be terrible. Nobody wants that, except for
that's one word that we might actually
one guy on the coaching staff. Show. Might have to do that, but for real. I know Wells the guy they're super excited about. So, to play this well without him is great. You got one more, what should be a cupcake, coming up before you got your first real test. And, then we start to see some things. You got Prairie View on Friday. Yes. You got Prairie View on Friday, Prairie View A&M on Friday. Revenge game for like the 2 guys on the roster who were around last year. And then you got Mississippi State next weekend. So that should be good.
They just beat ASU pretty good. They got up 21. All right. They got up 21 in the first half.
Oh yeah.
And then
won by
ASU
25.
pulled back a few. No, by 15.
15. Sorry, bad math.
Yeah, but
sorry, 15. Won by 15.
Carry the one or whatever.
Yeah, I'm an English teacher, Craig. You can't expect me to do math.
But that bumped him up to 22 on KenPom. And them beating Arizona State that bad knocked them down to 84, which now puts WSU at 83. We've already improved, guys. We've already improved.
We moved up 1. Yes. Suck on that, Bobby Hurley.
Yeah.
I hope to say that a lot this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Theoretically, he should get more T's, but
he should. Should always get more T's.
But yeah,
okay,
so
women.
Yeah, let's move on to the women's team. So obviously we know that they lost the starter for the year in Johanna Tadar before they even came in the season. So that was a bummer. But even with that, this honestly looks like the deepest team that Cammie has had. They brought in 3 legit looking freshmen and added a great transfer. And so I mean, this is a team that has gone 6 deep for a long time, and they could potentially go 9 deep once, 8 or 9, because Jess is hurt too. So we got, obviously they play Cal Poly. I cannot tell you how good or bad Cal Poly is. I don't know if they're Idaho level on the men's side, or if they're, actually a decent, a low major team. I couldn't tell you. But WSU, the women, I swear, it's just been this entire run of them going to tournaments. They have been awful in the first quarter. Just so consistently awful in the first quarter. And they were down. The only quarter they lost in this game was the first quarter. They got down by 6. Cal Poly shot like nuts, but honestly, they were playing pretty shady defense too. Like, they were giving them a lot of open looks, and
the
Cal Poly buried
terrible.
them. Yeah.
I mean, Cal Poly was making them all. A team that wasn't on fire, might have missed some of those open looks, but yeah, the defense was bad. It was definitely bad.
But they did what they did. They pulled some back in the second quarter, and then the third quarter they took over, and that's we see that a lot with this team, and it's a lot of the same core players, obviously. But yeah, Charlize, not her greatest shooting day. 2 of 10, 1 of 5 from 3. Missed a lot of open threes, I'd say. But she had 5 turnovers. was kind of dribbling, like she was getting some tight situations, giving the ball up a few times. But she had 9 assists and 8 rebounds, and 3 steals. So she only had 6 points, but she's still out there drawing attention all the time. You can always see the defense shading over towards her. So she's one of those players. And then to see her only take 10 shots in 36 minutes, knowing she's off, like that's like that in maybe like her sophomore year, she probably still would have shot 15 to 20 shots. Honestly, because there probably wasn't many other people to take the shots as much. But yeah, I think. But when you look at the depth, the starting 5 looks great. Bella is. I think she just gets a little better every year, honestly, and she's much more consistent and comfortable in the post. She played 20. I mean, foul trouble again. That's her problem. She picks up some silly fouls a lot. She picked up one where she had no business diving for a loose ball, and she dives at it, gets like her 3rd foul. It's like just don't do that. You're a really important player. You have to know that you have to avoid those silly fouls, and that refs historically will call them on you as much as they can.
Yes.
But she played 20 minutes at 18 points and 7 boards and 2 blocks and a steal.
That's
and
pretty good in 20 minutes.
That's pretty good in 20
minutes.
Your per 40 is looking really good, or like right there. But yeah, Beyonce B. Love the last name, of course. My daughter B. But she just very efficient. Has a nose for the ball, a nose for rebounds, chases rebounds. You know, she's if we're playing her at the 4, she's a bit of an undersized 4. But she could probably also play like the 2 or 3. And then she suddenly is not undersized. But yeah, she looks like a great addition. 5 blocks. I mean,
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, like
3 assists, 9 rebounds. Like that's a really good day.
Idaho, we took like your 2 best basketball players. And,
I know.
They're really helping us out.
Sorry, Idaho.
We were excited about this transfer coming in, and yeah, she looked every bit the part.
Yes.
Tara also struggled with foul trouble, and so she only got 19 minutes, but she was just around the basket a lot too, getting fouled a lot.
The refs were kind of all over the place with their whistles, and it was a bit unpredictable. They seemed very excited to call fouls. They were doing the thing where it's like, look at how fair I'm being by calling a ton of fouls on the tall people. You mentioned multiple times.
It's always the tall people that absorb the fouls.
Yeah, especially in the women's game. You don't see it as much in the men's game. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know, maybe because, they're farther off the floor. So I don't know, but it's like, it seems like the taller, bigger players in the women's game, are more subject to scrutiny by referees than maybe in the men's game. And there were a lot of very frustrating calls.
B would have had a double-double if not for, like, in the first half, she just jumped straight up over 2 other Cal Poly players who are 3 inches, 4 inches shorter than her, grabs a rebound, and they call over the back on her. And Tara draws a foul when the Cal Poly guard runs into her and tries to shove her out of the way, and Tara kind of puts her arm out, and the girl falls down. And they call Tara for the foul because she's bigger. And you see that a lot. But
and I mean, it's I was like to say it's the beginning of the season. I was just saying I was like to say it's beginning of the season for the refs too. Like it's they're in early season form just like the teams.
You see so many more charges earlier in the season. They just love calling the charges earlier in the year.
Yes. Well, they haven't had a chance to do that in 8 months.
To point aggressively. As I said on Twitter, they have to show off their off-season gains.
That's right.
at that
so
point.
they can flex and point the other direction with the little punch. It's like, they get very excited about that. I've said before, I said in the past, I think one of the best ways to reduce charges, and this is not my idea, this is a friend's idea from Twitter, but referees should have to do a wanking motion whenever they want to make a charge call, and maybe that would reduce the number of charges. So anyway.
It sucks. It's a block call is pretty fun too. You're like suck it.
Should be. It should be like, slide on in there and slam those hands into your hips and block. It's a block, Anyway, I don't know. I think the thing that impressed me the most was, just how fluid the offense looked. Typically that's a thing. I mean, we're used to seeing that with the men for sure, where it's like, it's a little kind of hit and miss, herky jerky. I mean, you saw that even, in a 25-point victory. There were stretches where the offense looked pretty good, and there were stretches where the offense looked really bad. And, in this game with as many returning players as this team has, and then, it sort of working in a player who is as talented as B, I mean, it was seamless, and it looked like mid-season. I mean, they were just sort of like attacking all these different spots. They were getting their shots over and over again. One of the reasons why Bella, and B scored so many points, and to an extent Wallach as well, was just, I mean, you mentioned all the attention that was being paid to Charlize, and it was like, okay, if you're going to pay that much of attention, well, here go our bigs, just doing like a little screen and slip, and layup. And it just, fouls, there was or draw fouls. And, there was just a rhythm to what they were doing offensively that just felt very smooth and very mid-season-ish. And even if the defense was, whatever, they scored 78 points, and that's with, shooting 64% on their free throws. Like, if they had shot a more reasonable percentage on their free throws, they would have, easily been in the 80s. And then like always, there were some, maybe some easy shots that were missed that they could have made, because they only ended up, shooting a little over 40% on their twos, almost 50% on their twos, but under 50% on the twos. And so it's just like, they could have done better, but in terms of converting, but the rhythm, I think, was like, holy crap, these guys, they're already in mid-season form. And, Cal Poly, I think we both suspect Cal Poly's pretty bad, but still, just for all of the movements and all of the actions to look just so smooth already, gives you, a sense that you can start very, very quickly. And if you're a team that is ranked number 24 to start the year, you've got designs on a high seed in the NCAA tournament. The games at the beginning count just like the games at the end. And, if you can get off to a hot start while everybody else is sort of finding their footing, then, all the better for you when it comes time for seeding at the end of the year. Yeah.
And honestly, and again, back to a big thing for that will be the depth. And obviously they're missing one of their, their backup five. But to see Alex Colville, she only played 9 minutes. But honestly, like, I have seen some awful deep bench bigs at WSU over the years. Just some, like, with very little, like, discerning talent. Nothing but, like, being tall. But she, for one, is very tall. I think she's at least 6'5". Very long arms. Definitely. And one thing I was impressed about her is she plays tall. Like, she sticks her arms up around the basket. She sticks her hands into passing lanes, and in the post, she goes right to work when she gets the ball. Like, she's willing to take shots, which is great. And they're willing to post her up. So she took 3 shots in 9 minutes. It's pretty good. And 2 free throws. Like, so, and also had a turnover and an assist. So she was very involved in her 9 minutes and a block. So that was good to see. It seems like we could have 3 at the 5 that where if Bella's in foul trouble, which she will be, like it's not going to be the end of the world. That's great. And then the two guards, their both last name is Villa, but they have no relation to each other. One is from Washington, and one is from Italy. The more touted one I would say is Jenna Villa. She was a state 4A player of the year last year. She was a 4-star recruit, top 100 recruit, and she can shoot it, man. Like she has a very pretty 3-point stroke. She is not afraid to shoot threes. She shot 9 threes.
She's like, give me all that. She had there was no bashfulness there whatsoever.
We know what her role is.
I love it too.
But she had 2 assists. She really showed and I mentioned it, like just the way players handle certain plays, you can kind of tell that they have some like basketball acumen. Like they're like, it's like this is a good player. Like this is a player that knows how to play. And one in particular was, she got the ball it was like a 2-on-2 breakaway, I would say. And Bella was standing under the basket and she got the ball at the wing. And I would say a lesser player would just try to immediately force the ball down to Bella. But she took 2 dribbles, drew the defense a bit, and got a better angle on the pass. And the shot was easy for Bella at that point.
Yeah.
And that's just what good players do. Like, I think she'll mostly be a 3-point shooter, but she's smart enough to make good passes, play some defense. Yeah, I'm really excited about Jenna Villa. Like that, this is a really good freshman, and this is again like the 4th year in a row when you just see freshmen that immediately look like Pac-12 players. We had Charlize, and then Wallach, Tahina, and now Villa. And Ella Villa, Eleanor Villa, but they call her Ella. Ella Villa. She looks like she could be a real kind of all around kind of combo guard. She hit some threes. She looked like she could get downhill a bit. Really looked solid defensively. So these 2 guards, to have this guard depth, to any depth really, but guard depth at the 5. The way they can mix and match the lineup with Tara and B, who can both be tall guards and also play the 4. Tahina and Charlize can take turns being the primary ball handler. Bella is just that rock inside. I'm really excited about this team. Like it sucks that they lost Yo, and they would be even better with Yo. But man, like these 3 freshmen coming in, I do not ever remember 3 WSU freshmen on the women's team be looking this good right off the bat, and just shows kind of what Cammie's been doing in recruiting lately, and these are like impact players on a team that is like a tournament level, potential like you said, a high seed type team.
Well, and I think it's also worth remembering that, when you talked about all the freshmen that have shown up, all of those previous players were international players. Jenna Villa is from Anacortes, right? Or something like that. I mean, she's from Washington. Arlington. That was close. Starts with an A.
They are pretty close to each other.
They are pretty close. So, to get a kid from Washington, those kids did not ever come to Washington State. Especially we might occasionally,
a 4-star top 100 player from Washington. I mean, in any sport. I'm talking like in any sport.
Yeah, I mean, legitimately any sport, but especially women's basketball. You'd get. You might get some, 2A player of the year or whatever who, decides to come, but not the top recruit in the state, right? So for her to come,
All-American,
Gatorade
Washington
for her to
player
come
of the year.
is so huge. Yeah, it's so huge, and it's another one of those, sort of steps in what Cammie Etheridge is building. So she's kind of gone and gotten talent from wherever she could get it. And now, she's landed somebody in state, and, those players always either went to Washington or they left and went to Stanford or something. And that was kind of it. And so to land a kid like that, those kinds of things can become a little, contagious, really, for lack of a better word. You can make those inroads with coaches and grassroots programs and things like that to kind of show like, hey, this is, it's what we do. I mean, that's what Schulenberger's done, to a large extent, right? Like landing some of those same kinds of kids that, otherwise would have always historically, gone to Washington or left the state. And it definitely helps that, when Washington is a little bit down, that you take advantage of that. But, when Washington's a little bit down and you take advantage of it, then all of a sudden people, start looking and they start looking your way once you've demonstrated you can do it. And I think that's what Etheridge is showing. And it's really exciting.
Yeah. And again, like they didn't have Jessica Clark, who is one player that took a huge step forward last year. And, they get her back. That's a big impact player off the bench. And then, Jenna is 6'1", 6'1" guard, gives you lineup versatility. Because against most teams, 6'1", you can play up to the 3 and 4 and be okay. Teams like Stanford are the exception. But also to have 6'1" guards, that helps you against teams like Stanford, who always have 6'1" guards. Their guards are always 6'2", 6'1". Like they never have anyone. They never have anyone in their lineup under 6 foot. But so to have just this caliber player, and she looked, she was excited to come in that first game. She, unafraid, and then the other Ella Villa, she looked beyond freshman, to be honest. Like her, her build, her body, like she looks strong. She looks capable. It's also funny. They also note on both their profiles, no relation to fellow WSU guard like Genevieve or whatever. But she didn't look like a freshman, and so she looked already
as
capable,
often is the case for the European players who come over, because they very often play club ball over there. They play against older players.
Yeah,
not unusual.
Similar to like to Tahina last year. She comes in and she's not afraid to go to the basket, all this stuff. And I'll say Tahina looks much more like grown up. Maybe it's just a hair. I don't know. But like her shot looks, she kind of had a hairdo that made her look like a kid a little bit last year. But, but her jump shot looks more fluid and quicker. She had a little bit of a slow release last year. I think that prevented her from getting more shots off. So it looks fluid and quicker. She's a good defensive player. When she could ball hawk. And then she has a little bit of a flash to her. So she has she could get on a stretch of like some dumb turnovers, but I think like she's taken a step forward this year too, it looks like. And so she'll be exciting to watch. And I mean, she was just so good last year as a freshman. But yeah, so it's crazy. Like this also looks like a team that can be good beyond Charlie. Like when if this is her last year, she kind of cryptically said an Instagram post that kind of made it feel like this is her last year, even though she does have another year after this if she wants. But honestly, like this team, if you took Charlize out, I think this still could be a tournament team. You put Charlize in, it could be a top 16, top 20 type seed team. Yeah, if when you put Charlize in, it's maybe they could host, and that's the difference. But so, but the talent that they've added around Charlize just every year since Charlize has got here, they're like, it's so nice to see a WSU team not have like a generational player that goes to waste. And then hopefully they could get in the tournament and win some games this year, obviously. But obviously they won the Pac-12 tournament already, which is probably going to end up being maybe the only team to ever do that at WSU. I'm excited about this team, man. They look like they're going to be really good again, and they have a lot of really fun players. And even Charlie goes 2 for 10 and has 5 turnovers, and they still have other players just picking it up, and it's good. And then just I would prefer to see Charlie go 6 of 10 with 2 turnovers, but should probably do that a lot more.
That's good.
But yeah, so women's basketball, let's go do it again. Let's go have some fun this year. They're the team. Them in volleyball. I'm hoping to put us in a good mood in this otherwise depressing final season of the Pac-12. But yeah, let's see. Let's move on to beer, and then we'll talk about that football team of ours.
Debacle.
So, Jeff, what do you? Yeah, let's get a little drunker before we talk about. What are you drinking, Jeff?
All right. Well, I'm still into my fresh hops here. Haven't quite consumed all of them yet. So tonight we got for the second time, not the second time on the podcast, but the second time that I've had it this year because it was so good. The first time around, this is the Stoop Fresh Hop Fiend IPA. It's annually one of the better ones, and this year I was like, this is the best one I've had this year. I'm gonna get another one. So that's what I'm having. Yes, also a great can. Very creepy looking hop guy on the front.
Spooky season.
Yes, yeah. So delicious beer. If you're into fresh hops and you can get your hands on one of these guys, highly recommend. I know it's late in the season at this point, but
yeah, that one probably is long gone at this point, but
I would think so. But
yeah, I agree. That's one of my favorites every year. I always go for that one. And they do it with different hops, so you might be able to get one of the later hop varietals in it. So, and I love a good, like, a lot of them like to do the hazies. I always prefer like a clean beer with the fresh hops. Yeah, and I often prefer a beer that's not an IPA at all, like a fresh. I love a good fresh hop pilsner, fresh hop lager, fresh hop Kolsch. Those always turn out good. But yeah, so fresh hop season, we're hanging on to it. There's still some beers on tap you can get places, so enjoy it while we can. We're very lucky to have that where we live. Yep.
What about you, buddy?
And I went back to a theme beer. Went down in my cellar. I've done this brewery before, I'm pretty sure. Revolution Brewing out of Chicago. But I thought, given the football game, given the boring nature of that football game, and kind of I'll call out PJ's article from Sunday, I thought was spot on with the Cougar football time of death, 21-27 PDT November 4th, 2023. Very Air Force of him to write it like that. But, But yeah, it kind of felt like the death. And so but it was also an incredibly shitty game to watch. So I am drinking Vanilla Death by Revolution Brewing.
If there's anything to describe what happened on Saturday better than that, I do not know what it would be. The most vanilla game possible. Dude, the worst death.
Sometimes
most bland.
Sometimes I
death.
go.
It's amazing.
Sometimes I go to my cellar and I just like it just delivers. And so I saw sitting there, I saw a cafe death, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do one of the. I have a few of these deaths, and then I see another Revolution can like in a box. I pull it up, and it's Vanilla Death. I'm like, this is the one. This is the one.
That is the
Vanilla one. Death 10-7. But we're going to talk about that in a second. But yeah, so this is Death's Tar. So it kind of Death's Tar. Ha ha ha. Is their imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels. And then they call it whatever like adjunct they put in it, like adjunct then death. So this is the one aged with vanilla. Now it's a little old. There's not a ton of vanilla left in it. This beer, for if you're thinking local beer, it's quite similar to Fremont Barrel Aged Dark Star. People have been wanting Fremont to make a vanilla version of that forever, but they just love their cinnamon, and they love their black like licorice or something. Like they never have just went straight vanilla. To the chagrin of many beer nerds in Seattle. But Vanilla Death, this Death series is very good. Also, they come in 12-ounce cans, which is amazing. And they like sell them in 4-packs around Chicago, around the Midwest, or whatever. This is it's very good. It's just a very like tight, on point barrel aged stout. It's probably like we look at this is from November 3rd, 2021. It was almost the same day as the Vanilla Death. Almost the same date. But yeah, so it's a couple years old. So some of the vanilla has faded off. But it's still like it's a great balance of the heat from the bourbon barrel with the booziness of they just do such a good job. Revolution just has a really on point barrel aging program. Really recommend if you're in Chicago, you see one of their barrel aged offerings around. Check it out. They're usually like pretty affordable because they usually like on a per can basis. Like Vanilla Death might be like $8, which is like $8 for 12 ounces. Whereas like a lot of barrel aged beers are like maybe $30+ for a 22 ounce, or even $22 for a 22 ounce. Like so. Looking like $1 an ounce. These are usually more like, the regular Death Star might be like 50 cents per ounce, and these. So it's really good for especially what they charge for it. Excellent brewery. I always tell the story of I thought this was a fake brewery. One of my favorite movies is called Drinking Buddies. It is what's called a mumblecore movie, where most of the movie was ad-libbed. I'm terrible with actors and actresses' names, but Olivia Wilde is in it. I think his name is Jake Johnson from New Girl. They're like the main characters. Jason Sudeikis is in it. Some other famous, the guy Ron Livingston, Anna Kendrick. I know all the names. So great lineup, and it's really funny. And everyone at the brewery works. Everyone in that movie, most people in the movie work at Revolution Brewing. So I saw this movie when it came out, and then I started working for a company in Chicago, and I knew that this movie would take place in Chicago, but I just assumed Revolution Brewing was like made up. I not kidding you. I got off the train in Chicago and looked, and the first thing I saw was a Revolution Brewing truck, and I was like, "Holy shit! It's a real brewery!" Like, oh my god! And they are a real brewery, and I really like them. They're a very good brewery. So yeah, like Revolution just like let them use their brewery and their branding and everything in this movie. Highly recommend checking it out. It's a great just kind of movie to watch when you're having beers, and it's a very indie version of like a love story, in that I won't spoil it, but it's very indie how it ends. But yeah, so check it out. Drinky Buddies and Revolutionary Brewing, Vanilla Death. All right, Jeff, speaking of this Vanilla Death, the fucking football game that I sat in Gisa Field at Martin Stadium and watched with my friends who were Nebraska alums going to Pullman for the first time, and my friend who was kind of nodding off because he had gotten up at 5:30 in Olympia and driven over that day, and it was like 8:30, and we had been drinking since the moment he got into Pullman, and but yeah, it was what a disaster. Like I cannot the level of anger I felt was quite similar to that game that shall not be named in 2019. Like it was just baffling, and it just we talked about before the game that we didn't know what was gonna, like, this was so hard to predict because we don't know what to expect from this team, and man did they fucking deliver, because that is not what I expected. Of all the scenarios, 10-7. Neither offense really been able to move the ball, until Stanford needs to run out 6 minutes of the clock. Then they said they can move the ball. It just just every fucking fluky shit that has to happen at WSU, dropping a pick six, a ball almost on the ground being tipped up by Cooper Mathers for an interception for Stanford. Dean Janikowski, who's very reliable, missing a field goal that he should always make. It was just wild shit. Like, just Cam making one of the most incredible plays I've ever seen in person. And it was just like, honestly, I'm probably not going to talk that long about it because it's just so shitty. But it was just a disaster of a game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much to add because I was at a wedding. And I kind of was trying to keep one eye on it, and
you're so lucky, man.
Yeah, apparently,
dude. Sometimes fall weddings save you.
Yeah,
from just misery. Like I was gonna go to the Alex Brink 5 interceptions against Oregon State in the rain game, but Marty and Corey got married that weekend, so I missed that game. God bless Marty and Corey for getting married that weekend.
Yeah, so it was, and the groom was even a Coug. We go way back. So it was just like, I was keeping one eye on it. During some of the reception, I was, I kind of pulled it up on my phone and was watching a little bit, but I was just like, oh my God, like, why am I doing? I did get to see Janikowski's missed field goal, so that was very exciting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like,
I missed Janikowski's missed field goal because after we had 2nd and 1 and then Cam got sacked twice, I was staring at my feet, despondent, just kind of like resigned to the fate of the game.
Yeah.
Like, and then he missed it and I was just like, yep. I don't even know what happened. I don't even know how he missed it. I wasn't even looking.
Yeah, I think he pushed it, if I remember right. Pushed it to the right. I mean, there's just such a, I mean, we talked about this last week, right? Like, something's wrong. Something's not right. There's just kind of a malaise on the team. The energy, the intensity level's not there. They've now lost, 5 in a row, which is like, it's just so insane to think about.
Inexplicably is that they've played pretty well offensively against the 2 better defensive teams. That they've played in these last 4, and then they've played horribly offensively against the 2 worst defensive teams.
But you know what?
In the last 4,
you know what that says to me? Like, I don't think that's an accident. I think this is a team that they won those 4 games and then they had a bye. And at the time, I think we all thought, hey, it's a pretty good spot for the bye. Like you've played really well, but at the time, Lincoln Victor was banged up at the time. Like, you're just kind of like, all right, regroup, get healthy, and then you push on through to the next thing. you know, in the game against UCLA, there was nothing in that game that made you think like, okay, there's a problem here, right? Like they played hard. They didn't necessarily play well, but like that was a hard ass game. Like, you know, it was super hot. Offense was really struggling against a really good defense. Our defense, you know, kind of fought and clawed, you know, against all odds, you know, more or less. You know, played better than I think maybe they even had a right to play in that game, you know? And so you just kind of came out of that game and you went, all right, you know, yeah, okay. You know, it sucks. It sucks to lose. You know, we were ranked, whatever, number 13, right? You just kind of go, but you know, it was very explainable, right? And there was nothing that we saw in the game that felt like it was, you know, problematic. You know, you're like, okay, well, you know, offense bad, but you know, you just sort of explained it away with UCLA's defense. And then you had the game the next week against Arizona. And it was like the way I put it was that they looked like they expected to just show up and roll them. And that if we just show up, you know, we're so good. If we just show up, we'll kill them. And Arizona, conversely, looked like a team that was like, we are tired of getting our faces kicked in by Washington State. And we would like to win by a lot. And they played like it from start to finish. And, you know, and then of course, you know, we had a decent game against Oregon and then bad game against Arizona State, bad game against Stanford. I think there might be something to the fact that the three worst teams are teams that they, you know, should have beaten. We all thought they should have beaten. Probably they thought they should have beaten. And they felt like they could show up and just have it happen. And it didn't happen. And, you know, I try not to play, you know, armchair psychologist, you know, too much because I'm not that, right? But at the same time, it's like, you know, I don't think it's coincidental that they played good, you know, pretty well and played really hard, you know, against the two good teams in this 5-game stretch, being UCLA and Oregon, and that the three bad teams, they just kind of showed up, went through the motions and got their asses handed to them. So, you know, I mean, I guarantee you they were saying the same things or thinking the same things that we said last week, which is Stanford can't stop anybody. Like they've given up 40 points for 4 weeks in a row. Like they can't stop anyone. They won't stop us, you know, and same thing, Arizona, same thing. And Arizona State. Oh, this is a team that hasn't scored more than like 5 points all year. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden, you know, the defense, you know, can't stop them. So I just, the word that comes to mind with this team is just arrogant. And that is how it looks. That is how it feels, that they are just like, yeah, our shit don't stink. We're good enough to just show up. And it's like, you're not. Nobody is. I think Stephen Ayers, captured that perfectly with his piece that he wrote at Cougar Center this week about, you know, just sort of how shitty this all is. But one of the things that he talked about is just like that football demands, because it is so hard, because it is so physical, because so much of it is just the willingness to, you know, go out and get hit over and over again. You know, kind of demands every ounce of your attention, of your respect, of just sort of everything. And we've got a team right now that is not giving that. And it's kind of puzzling because I think we felt like that was a strength of Dickert's, you know, last year and into this year. And so to have it not be a thing, you know, is certainly concerning. It just, man, it looks like everybody is just either their brains are elsewhere or they just felt like they could show up and things will just happen. And of course, neither of those things are a recipe for success. And now they've got to win, you know, 2 of their last 3 just to make a bowl game. Like that blows my mind. Like you got to beat Cal at Cal, and then you got to beat Colorado at home and then play Washington. It's like, I don't know, man. I mean, the Cal bullshit is real. We all know this. You know, Cal is
4-8 seems a lot more likely than 6-6.
And Cal is starving again, like a lot of these other opponents. You know, Cal is starving for a win. You know, and oh, by the way, they have
Colorado,
probably the best running back in the conference, right? So
we're supposed to preview. I guess we could.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to preview too much, but just, they put up damn near 50 on USC. Of course, everybody scores on USC, but that does let you know that, if you don't come correct, they can move the ball. They can put up points. Jaden Ott is a home run hitter, who could, go for 250 yards against us. Like, that would not surprise me or shock me.
I'm not. I think I would be shocked if he doesn't go for like 150 to 200.
Yeah, that's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I just I don't know. Are they going to respect Cal? I have no idea at this point. I know that, Cam Ward said the right things about well, we had that chip on our shoulder through 4 games and we lost that. We're going to get that back. You don't get that back. You just don't. If you didn't get that chip back after getting your faces kicked in by Arizona, it ain't happening. So, what's going to happen down at Cal? I mean, are they going to respect Cal, or are they going to just, show up and go through them? I don't know, man. Real test of Jake Dickert's coaching and a real test of the team's resolve, coming up this weekend.
Yeah. And yeah, this is 2 teams that have, one's lost 4 in a row, one's lost 5 in a row. Like you said, hungry for a win.
Yeah. Are we as hungry for a win as Cal will be? Because I guarantee Cal is really hungry for a win. Are we going to be that hungry? I'm not convinced that we are going to be. So.
And Cal still, Cal could win out and go to a bowl game. So this is like if we don't win this week, the bowl game dream is over. So they have that desperation.
Yep.
Let's just you cannot predict this team.
No, screw it. We're not doing predictions.
Now I'm
fuck that.
Yeah, I'll say I think they're gonna lose. I guess that worked out better earlier in the year, but honestly, I just don't.
I mean, at this point, who in the conference would you predict them to beat? I
can't tell you how the game is going to go. This game could be 12-7, or it could be 54-45. I cannot tell you, but what I feel is that they're going to lose either of those games. They're just going to lose. It doesn't matter if it's low scoring or high scoring. They'll lose.
Yeah.
Mid scoring.
Now, I hope the worst team in the conference. So
easily, until they played the worst team. They just played the worst 2 teams, and they lost to them.
Until they show us otherwise, I don't know how you predict anything other than they're going to go down to Cal and they're going to lose. So,
apologies to Oregon State, who might be in the top 10 of the CFP if WSU hadn't shit down its leg for 5 weeks.
I kind of wish that Oregon State had won that game, if I'm being real honest right now. That sounds terrible, but I'm also man, they should have something good. That would be great. But oh well.
Fuck that. No, I was at the game. I wouldn't give that away for anything. Might be.
It's okay. Man. I understand.
But no prediction except for how could anyone predict a win at this point? I don't even know. Let's move on to, since we're already in a bad mood, let's talk about the soccer team. Their season's over.
Yeah. I went to the last game.
We went 20 years without losing to UW. Now we regularly lose to UW.
Yep.
Lose to UW in the final fucking Pac-12 game. Jeff was there.
Yep.
It was.
I had a great time with my kids.
I remember right.
I had a great time with my children. And Emma. Yeah. Emma was there with us. And
nice.
Matt, whose last name I do not know, but my friend from Twitter, Matt, was there, and we sat next to him and talked about the game. So
Matt, the Rain fan.
Yes, the big Rain fan, Matt. Yeah.
Yes, I know Matt.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we sat near each other on accident, but it was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And we ended up sitting next to him. So, I mean, we look bad. I shouldn't say that. That sounds terrible. We looked, I don't know. Washington's 2 goals were, the first one was a really well taken goal from their right winger scored both the goals, and I can't remember her name, but whatever. Really well taken goal, but also it was made possible by Nadia Cooper going on a little bit of a journey away from her goal. For some reason, this winger was one-on-one with a Cougar defender. She was kind of moving away from goal, chasing down a ball. I have no idea why Cooper was wandering away from goal, but she did. And then she was kind of caught in no man's land, and the winger did a great job of just sort of like chipping the ball over to the far post and into the side netting. Really, really nice goal, really well taken goal, but also like if Cooper had just stayed home, it like she should have. There wasn't really any reason to come out from goal. She would have stopped it. And then the second goal, there was just kind of a hard cross across the box to really nobody. And then for some reason ended up just sort of bouncing all the way through the box. And again, the winger found the ball kind of at the far post and slammed it home. So, and then the Cougs, boy, they got one plan, and if that plan ain't working, they got nothing really. It's really route one. Like they're just going long balls down the middle. They're expecting Margie DiTrizio to run onto a ball and make something happen, or to beat two defenders with her feet and score. And she almost did. There was one where she just kind of shot it over the bar after getting incredible touch and turn. And then there was another kind of rocket that went off the bar. I think it was DiTrizio. She was bringing the ball up the field. I don't know, man. They have a very peculiar style of play where they kick it long and they try to knock it down and win second balls. And, I jokingly call it, the brute force offense, because that's kind of what it is. We're just going to like hump the ball up the field and we're going to try and win it. And then we're going to, fire. We've talked about this before. We're just going to fire as many shots as possible in the vicinity of the goal. And at some point we're going to get something, that falls at our feet, or we're going to, beat a goalie or whatever. But it was, Washington had a game plan where they just really, they dropped 9 and they had one person up top to sort of press the ball, but most teams play with 2 up top. Some teams will even play with 3, depending on how hard they want to try and press. Washington played with 1, and they went 1 and then 5 midfielders and on their second line, and then 4 defenders on their back line. And they were just sort of like saying to the Cougs, and the Cougs had some success early playing the ball hard to the feet of DiTrizio. And so they switched to this alignment, and there was no way you could play a ball to somebody's feet through all that traffic. They're like, fine, try and beat us over the top. We're not even going to confront you until you've, crossed midfield. And they couldn't do it. And it just was, it was really hard to watch. So, I don't know if this gets better next year with, players getting healthy. There were lots and lots of players get hurt. Honestly, I'm not up on eligibility, so I don't really know, if there are some injured players who might return. I honestly am not sure. But what I do know is, they do have some talented freshmen, but I don't know if Schulenberger's really got to kind of take a hard look at how they play, because when they can't do their thing, it's really tough and really, really hard for them to score goals, because they play basically with 1 midfielder a lot of the time. It's really weird, and I don't know I don't know how successful that can continue to be. And I think that, at the Pac-12 level, it has felt a little bit like, I don't want to say we've been figured out, but it kind of feels like that, the rest of the Pac-12 knows what we're doing, and not that that's like, there's not a lot of secrets, but they just sort of are like, okay, this is what they're going to do. This is how we're going to defend it. And this is how we're going to stop it. And it feels, more and more and more like that is a hindrance to where this program wants to go. And after, being in the NCAA tournament for years and years and years and years and years, and making the College Cup and all that stuff, this is the second year in a row out of the tournament. So, and that doesn't include the COVID year when they didn't make the tournament either. So, yeah, it sucks. It sucks real bad.
Is that Texas A&M win earlier in the year? that we thought maybe it was just kind of like Texas A&M isn't that good. Like Texas A&M was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like they have a winning record in SEC play.
And they did suffer a shit ton of injuries. Like there's no doubt that they suffered a bunch of injuries after that. But I don't know, man. Like you got to try something different. I don't know. Like, but I don't know. Maybe that wasn't really an option. I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah. By the way, Texas A&M is a tournament team. They're playing Colorado. So yeah, WSU started. There was every reason to think that they were going to be good at the start of the year, but like you said, there's injuries, and then it just fell apart. They lost against. They had a stretch of playing a lot of tough teams. Didn't really get any results from it, and it it was it all went downhill from there. And sadly, the last Pac-12 season for them in a conference that they've really held their own in, especially during the teens. So yeah, it's a real bummer. Let's move on. So the sports weekend looked like it might be trending up when volleyball, which was the first to start at 6 on Friday, opened up their match against Stanford by winning the first set, but then of course lost the next 3. And I remember sitting and like watching. I was like following the soccer game and the volleyball game, just like on my phone, like while at the bar or dinner or whatever, in Pullman, and it was just like, oh no, these are going terribly. These are going terribly now.
Yep.
Like it's just three straight sets down to Stanford, which is like it's not something to like criticize over. Like Stanford is really good.
No, but after the first set, you were like, all right, here we go. And then not so much.
Not so much. And then when they bounced back, they did what they needed to do against Cal and swept that. So they're still in a good spot with UCLA and USC coming to town this weekend. They still have 5-6 more matches this year. So like while soccer is done, volleyball has a long way to go.
Yep.
And then of course at Colorado, at Utah, and then home again. One more. There's actually 3 more home games. So if you're wanting to see them, this is probably the best weekend to do that. The next one is the night before Thanksgiving, which is interesting. Arizona State coming to Pullman on the night before Thanksgiving, and then WSU goes to UW on Black Friday. So
yep,
it's an interesting schedule there. But yeah, they still have they're going to the tournament. It's just going to be what they do in those last games that will determine where they'll be playing, if they'll be hosting, all that stuff.
Yep.
So they need to stack some wins, have a home game, have some home games in Pullman for the tournament. But yeah, so volleyball. Also, just for our mental health, can you win some games,
please?
Yeah. So yeah, we have so many. When basketball starts, it's like there's too many fucking sports to talk about. We didn't even talk about, and I didn't really want to talk about that much, but we could talk about it briefly that because it blew up on Twitter, but I think it was more because it was kind of out of context. Someone asked Jake Dicker about WSU's place in the NIL space, and so he said that WSU is, in a bad place. Now, maybe a PR person would have said, you should have not really been that direct about that. But I think it's no secret to anyone that WSU is not competing on NIL.
And it's no secret to recruits either. Like, I don't know who this is supposed to harm that people are up in arms. People don't want to hear the truth, I guess. And people are like, well, a coach shouldn't be saying that. Like, well, what? I mean, why? Why not? I don't know. You
And
tell me what you. So I'm asking you, Craig. Like, what am I missing? Like, what's the damage that's done by the coach saying this that people don't already know?
The damage is done. Is it because it enabled all those people that like to get online and blame goddamn middle class Cougs?
Yes.
For WSU being at a fundraising deficit. And I'm sorry, but WSU is not at a fundraising deficit because of our middle class level donors. We actually have more donors than like Oregon State and some other Pac-12 schools. We have a lot of donors. We do not have the whales. And that is what separates us even from Oregon State.
Yep.
Is that we do not have
We don't even have a
whale.
reeser. We don't even have a reeser.
We don't have a reeser. A hog isn't as big as a reeser, apparently. So WSU just doesn't have those big, and it's not like there are rich Cougs, like, but they were never obviously ever to get Paul Allen to donate to athletics.
Yeah.
Despite him having an interest in sports.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like what, like for real, like, do you see it as a bad, okay. Do you see it as something that's actually damaging, or do you see it as something that's just a bad look, or what? Because I saw the quote. I was just like, yeah, it's true.
I didn't think much about it, and it was just really the responses that annoyed me.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing about it where
the type of response that I said.
Yes, like I'm like, look, well, the head coach shouldn't be saying that. Well, why not? Like, are you afraid that recruits are going to find out? Recruits already know we have no money. Are you afraid the players are going to find out? The players already know we have
because they've asked for money and
and they've been told no.
Sorry,
like whatever. I mean, it just okay. So what? Does it make the university look bad? Well, you know what? Tough shit. Like, I'm sorry. Like, and like you said, like the one downside is people are like, well, we got to do more, and it's like, well, fuck that. No, I don't have to do more. I'm not going to donate more because my marginal gain from my donation, my increased donation for the program is way less than the marginal effect on my family if I, up my donation a whole bunch. Like if I go from where I'm at to, I don't know what, like a few $100s a month, like, does that make any difference at all in terms of keeping players or recruiting players or attracting players? But it does. Like, that's, I don't know. I mean, that's like a car payment. Like, I mean, it's not the same. And so, like you said, like us being blamed, for where we're at is just like, it pisses me off. And I understand that it's kind of the only way forward in lieu of major donors. Like, I get it, but also like, it's not really a reasonable ask. And I get that people will say things like, well, it's perfectly reasonable if we want to stay at this level. And it's like, well, you know what? Maybe this is not a popular opinion, but maybe we don't belong at this level. And I hate it. And it sucks. And I'm bummed out and it makes me sad, but it's also like, maybe it's the truth. Like I don't know,
like, if WSU, look, Oklahoma State got a T. Boone Pickens.
Yes.
And when this all condenses again, like Big 12 is they're not where WSU and Oregon State are going to be, but the Big 12 is definitely in this next round a second tier league. And when it condenses again, Oklahoma State again included in that. And they have like billions, like a huge donor that has like bankrolled them. But you also look at Oregon is nothing. Oregon is us without Phil Knight.
Yep.
Oregon is us without Phil Knight.
For decades.
They were us for so long.
We had a record against Oregon not that long ago.
And that's the kind of like, if that would have happened in the 90s at WSU, if a billionaire would have been like, hey, I want to donate like a large, like $1 billion.
Yeah, I want to remake the entire athletic department
over the span of 30 years. That build a basketball arena and among many other things.
Yeah,
and that would have, WSU probably would be in a very different place right now.
Yep.
It never happened.
Yep.
And now it seems very unlikely to happen if they're going to be at best a group of 5 type level team. So it's just it's like, stop fucking telling me who just like actually like notices my like knows what's in my bank account. Like don't like anyone who knows how much money is in their bank account at all times. Like there's not, like they're not the person that's going to save you.
Yeah. No. Nope. And well, Craig, if there were like 1,000 of us who did it, like
there is.
That's the thing. Like, oh well, if all these people donated another $100 or a month or whatever, like we'd have however many millions of dollars. And it's like, okay, but like, I mean, come on. Like, I don't know, man. I have a hard time. I have a hard time feeling like really anything about it, to be honest. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't want to be told again after WSU loses a football game that like it's because people are donating money. People need to donate more. Like, no, we don't. We do not need to donate more. Sorry.
Go find a super rich person.
Yep. Expend all that energy.
Like,
go shame a rich person into giving away their money.
One $3 million donation from someone who it doesn't matter that much to would completely change the NIL fund.
Yeah.
Like,
yep. Yes, it would. So, anyway. Yeah, I know it seems like he said it just sort of matter-of-factly and maybe, out of a bit of frustration, but I don't really blame him. Like, the vultures are swirling, or circling. They're circling, right?
We know the basketball team's been frustrated about it.
Yes. Kyle Smith said things that were basically the same last April or May, whatever it was.
Yep.
Like, he said almost exactly the same thing. Like, we don't have enough money. We're not competitive. Like, I don't know, probably because the football coach is different, but it's the truth.
So. And you're on the back of it just sound. See, well, I think people just said it sounded like sour grapes or whatever.
I guess. I don't know.
But it was really just him. It was just him answering a question. Yeah. He got asked about NIL, and so he answered.
Right. And
he didn't go into the rant about why they've lost 5 games or whatever.
Right. The reporter from the Spokesman was working on a story about that, so he answered the question.
So he tweeted out just that quote.
Yep.
He provided context later, but this is the nature of Twitter, X, whatever. Yeah. Like, it's just we've seen this happen a million times where there's more context so you should always ask when you see quotes like that is like, okay, what was he asked?
Yep.
What's the rest of this?
Yep.
Like, what else happened around it?
Yep.
Yeah. So just it's nothing but fun in Washington State sports. But hey, the basketball teams are both undefeated. The women's team we didn't mention plays Gonzaga tomorrow, and they will raise their banner as Pac-12 champions.
Rings.
Get their rings.
Yeah.
WSU team getting rings. Hell
Let's
yeah.
kick the shit out of Gonzaga.
Yeah. Yes. I would feel very good if they did that. Very good. And then the men's basketball team has to exact some revenge on Prairie View A&M.
Yep. Let's do that. Let's make it painful. Man. Kill them.
Make it painful. And if you want to, I don't know, if you want to follow us, I tweet a lot during basketball games. So at the Craig Powers, Jeff's at Pod versus Everyone. I'll start using Blue Sky. I should more, honestly, but it's like Craig Powers at bluesky.social whatever. Jeff's Newscoog at bluesky.social whatever.
Yep.
But most importantly, Jeff, the newsletter.
Yeah. Subscribe, podcast, VS Everyone at podcast vseveryone.substack.com, right? That's when you get the episodes delivered directly to your inbox, and anything else that we decide to write. We haven't done anything like that in a while, but you never know. We might do that. And yeah, that's that's the biggie.
Yep. So do all that. And if you want to see one of the wildest concerts I've been to this year, go check out my Instagram or my TikTok. Craig W. Powers, Scene Queen. Check her out. But Jeff, with that I say, go Cougs.
Go fucking Cougs, Greg. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Let's see. Get vaccinated.
And unions.
Yeah, support a
go
union, man.
SAG-AFTRA.
Hell yeah. Some big wins there.